Hello and welcome to Frank's School. I said there were going to be extraneous sounds, and there are. And my shirts, I'm just going to go rough. It's exposed. I know what happened with the light yesterday. It was so hard to read. It's because it snowed, and there was much more light coming in the windows than normal. One of those things. I was sorry about that because I really wanted you to be able to read what I had written. And another thing, up here, I had, when I passed the English into Our Talk Writing, I left this as an A. We don't say at al, no, not in English. A man's name, Al, would be like short for Alfred, Al. That would have the sound of Al. But what we say is all, at all. That was a mistake. Another thing I should maybe mention, ellipsis. That afterthought, the dash. He was not himself that morning, indeed scarcely a rooster at all. He was, indeed, scarcely a rooster at all. Well, he was is understood. They're left out. That's called ellipsis. And if you write, that helps to explain why there's that issue with sentence fragments. If you took that all by itself, indeed scarcely a rooster at all, that would not be a complete thought, because you would remove the other part required to fill it in. That's the difference between a sentence fragment and an afterthought. I may revisit that subject because I think it's interesting. I struggled with how do you punctuate that, and the punctuation system was ready. I just had not been taught at an early age about a dash. That's ellipsis. All right, the story goes on like this, and this will be the end of the first paragraph then. He, and this is the rooster, who had not crowed. It will help so much if you have taken my course. And if I could say something like the antecedent of the word he is rooster. But for that, you have to know what an antecedent is. But, I'm ready for this cat. Here comes the cat. There's the catnip. And I think she'll get interested in that, I hope. Anyway, here the story goes on like this. He had had a rough night. He had not slept a wink. Well, that could be punctuated as two sentences. If this were capitalized, he had had a rough night. We've got a subject, we've got a simple predicate. He had had. And this, incidentally, is the past perfect tense. He had had a rough night. You see, I'm telling the story in the past. And this was further back in the past, before the time of that the story is occurring. So it's in the past perfect tense. He had had a rough night. He had not slept a wink. That could also be regarded as a separate sentence, and that would be fine. But there is a rule that when you've got a second clause that restates what the first clause said, essentially, then it's better to use a colon. That's called a colon. Well, it would go here. He had had a rough night. He had not slept a wink. It's a little bit like saying that is. Now, if there were a conjunction there, and, well, that would be a different situation. He had had a rough night and he had not slept a wink. That would be different. But when there's no conjunction, and the second clause basically says the same thing as the first, then that's one of the uses of a colon, if you would want to use it. I find myself thinking of the Psalms, the ancient Hebrew Psalms, because part of that poetic structure was that you always had the second half of the line basically said the same thing as the first half of the line. And I'm not sure, I didn't look to see if they're punctuated with a colon, but that would be the case. He had not slept or wink. And this is a clause too, because he, there's the simple predicate. He had slept. He had slept. It's a clause. All right, now the sound of this. Again, if you're only interested in punctuation, then this would not matter. But if you are interested in my approach to foreign language, it would be worth it to learn my spelling system, and especially if you're a non-English native speaker and you would like to learn it. The sounds that are made go like this. He, I could capitalize that or not, it doesn't really matter. He had had a rough night. Sometimes I use this as an example of how different the sounds we make are from what we write. The spelling of night was established maybe 600 years ago in the time of Chaucer, and at that time it was probably pronounced nicht. He had had a rough night. He had not slept. Now, in Kerala's dialect, someone could easily say slept and left the T off. Slept wink. All right, that was video 1 for today. Video 2, I will show you now what happens if this is put into German. I hope to see you then. Bye for now.